Nobody's going to come save me. I'm going to have to save myself.
Shannon, how did you find Carnivore?
Well, probably how most people find it. Lately, I'm sure there have been many people that were just on it and never came forward, but I had been on a journey of self-healing for many years, and especially in reference to weight loss. But that was always secondary to what was going on in my life. So I found Carnivore on almost a 3-year journey that I've been on. Back in August of 21, I went in for a physical exam because I was exhausted. I'd been through a major life transformation, major life crises. My husband had passed away from cancer, and I had been a caregiver for 3 years and had not checked into my own health at all. I just sort of, when you're in that caregiving mode, you somehow buckle down and make it through because you're having to take another person through. And I never paid any attention to what I was feeling, but I was getting heavier and less healthy and exhausted. And then I all of a sudden, I started having neuropathy in my feet. I walk every morning about 2.5, 3 miles with a friend, and all of a sudden there was this shooting, felt like needles going into my feet. And so immediately I made an appointment. Oh my gosh, am I having a stroke? What's happened? I was really feeling awful. And I got into the doctor's office and they put me into a complete panic attack. Mind you, I hadn't been to the doctor except for maybe if I had a really bad cold or a UTI or something, and that had been years. So I had high blood pressure. I was told my A1C was 6.3, and the doctor said, you're pre-diabetic, if not diabetic. We got to get you on high blood pressure medicine right away. But I was also having severe sinus infections and earaches, and I'd had an ear problem years ago. It turned out that I had a shingle that kept coming up inside my eardrum, like inside the ear, and it would just hurt so bad. The pain would be. So I was having all of these crazy, now I know it's simply inflammation, autoimmune problems. So then I was immediately given an MRI for my head, for my ear, and then I was told that I had white matter, scattered white matter in my brain. And I'm like, what does that mean? What does that mean? And she's like, well, everybody that's old your age gets this. And I'm like, no, I don't believe you, So I said, hey, I need to think this out. I'm not going to go on blood pressure medicine. They even wanted me to go to the hospital because they couldn't get my blood pressure down in the doctor's office. And I'm like, hey, you know what? The reason my blood pressure is so high is you've got me scared out of my mind, And I hadn't even had the MRI yet. When I went back for the results of the MRI, then my blood pressure was like, God, I'm going to die. The first thing I do is call my daughter. Oh, I'm going to end up with dementia. I need to get my trust in order. I need to get you as power of attorney. I'm thinking all these things because I had just gone through myself, having to take care of my husband who passed. So I'm like, this is the end. I'm walking right down into I could be incapacitated. And my feet, with the neuropathy, I had fallen several times, and I didn't really relate it to the fact that I couldn't feel the bottom of my feet, And here I am, 68 years old, and I'm 70 now, and I'm thinking a bad fall at my age could be my last time of ever being mobile again, because that's a bad time to do that. Well, it turns out I do have good bones and things like that, because I've had plenty of falls and I didn't break a hip. But that's when I started the journey of, I've always believed that inflammation is the cause of almost all diseases and anything that's disabling you. I worked for many, many years as a paramedical examiner for life insurance companies. I was an independent contractor, and I took health histories on people. And I was always so proud that I was already like in my 60s, and I still was not on any medications. I had, kind of what I would consider perfect health, but I didn't know that in the background I was probably pre-diabetic that whole time because I had a terrible sweet addiction, and I didn't have a really bad alcohol problem. It never became a bad problem, but addiction to sweets and alcohol cravings are very connected. It's like this alcohol turns into sugar. So it would be either dessert or wine, and then when I was alone and having to restructure my social life without having a spouse with me anymore, I started drinking with my friends, and that became my social life. And so I was building up things, and I didn't realize it until it had become serious. And to have, a shocking news that your A1C is like right over the pre-diabetic line, and you've already got peripheral neuropathy. I thought, well, people tell you, well, you don't get peripheral neuropathy till you've been a diabetic a long time. But I do remember family members. I had an uncle that had several family members my uncle lost his leg before, and they couldn't get his diabetes under control, and he had it very, he went downhill real slowly, and lost his ability to, when he lost his leg, he said, oh, I'll be back on the golf course. Well, he never got back on the golf course. He just kept going downhill, and my mother had diabetes and all kinds of things. She even went completely blind. So I never thought that it would be something that I would ever have to worry about, because I've always been very conscious about eating well and trying everything. I mean, from the time I can remember in the 70s, following the Weight Watcher plan. I even worked for Weight Watchers for 6 years as a leader in classes to keep my weight off. Because if you lose weight, it's very hard to keep it off, no matter how you do it. So I became, an active leader, and that forced me to stay within my goal weight so I could get a paycheck. It was just a part-time job, but I loved it, and it was so fun. And so then years went by, and my whole life plan changed, my journey changed, and family, children, the whole thing. And then, so I really put on weight, a lot of weight. I gained 60 pounds with my pregnancy, which, I say, oh, well, it's baby weight, but that was 40 years ago. So I can't, my baby's 40. So I can't say it's baby weight anymore. No, I'm just kidding. But, for the first couple of years, that's what you say. So I did all kinds of things. My weight went up and down. I was a vegan. I was a raw vegan. I was a vegetarian. I was a faster. I fasted one time for 24 days and felt the most wonderful I'd ever felt in my life. And even when I was told this in August of 21 that I went on a juice, a smoothie, a green smoothie diet. And I got so sick, my joints, everything. I was taking those great big giant packs of spinach and kale and making this thick green smoothie every day. And then all of a sudden, I couldn't move my shoulders anymore, and my feet, and my leg, and then it went to my hip. And I'm like, something's wrong. It's like these smoothies are attacking my body. They're not healing me at all. And my digestive system went wacko. And I had done that before, and it worked fine. But now it's like, okay, what's happening? So that's when I found information about plants poisoning you. And I think Dr. Gundry, talked about lectins and said, well, lectins, I mean, okay, I studied nutrition in college, but I do remember that oxalates were in spinach. So then I found out about oxalates. I'm like, okay, this is not going to heal me. This is going to make me worse. So I tried this green smoothie for about 2 or 3 weeks, and then I went on keto. But keto was too hard for me to stay on because it was too tempting to have like a Quest candy or an Atkins bar, and I was still addicted to the sweets. But what really was the worst about the keto and me doing it, okay, I'm eating healthy, I'm eating real food, but then I'm supplementing here and there. I'm still drinking diet soda. I'm still, needing to take Monster drinks to stay awake during the day. And it seemed like this artificial sweetener now was attacking me worse than the green smoothies did. It was like, as soon as I would have some artificial sweetener, stevia, sucralose, I used to have Sweet and Low and things, I couldn't tolerate anything with sweetener in it. And then it didn't even taste good to me anymore. And so I thought, experiment. And I still experiment, believe it or not, to this day, because I keep thinking, how can this be? How can if I buy an electrolyte powder and it's flavored and it has some stevia in it, how can something that everybody else is using to, get their electrolytes down be hurting me? But within an hour or two after I drink like an electrolyte drink that has the sweetener in it, which is all keto foods have this in it. It seems like if it's packaged or boxed or in a can, it's got this stevia in it. So I had to break that away. And then just slowly, I was doing meats and a high fat. And then I found a lot of information from carnivores on YouTube. I'm an eternal student, eternal seeker. And so I just couldn't get in enough information. And with every one that I watched, oh my God, yes, I have that. Yes, that's happened to me. Yes, oh, I know how that feels, Oh yeah, my gums stop bleeding. My gums are bleeding, then they stop bleeding. And my hair just like is growing so fast that my hairdresser can't keep up with it. And I never, I had some white in my hair, but I never went totally gray. But my hair went so dark, I'm like, line it back up. I like it lighter, So things like that, the changes in my body. But the biggest change was the pain going away and how quick it comes back, which is the tiniest deviation. So now, since the end of November, I waited till after Thanksgiving. I sort of went on the lion diet because I was starting to have stomach issues when I ate chicken or when I ate pork. And it seemed like lamb didn't do too bad, but the only thing that didn't give me a stomachache was beef. And so then I found watching Michaela Peterson and Jordan Peterson, and they do that lion diet. And I thought, oh, I can't do that. I can't, that's just too boring. But so I try putting in some eggs once in a while. But the benefits of my body, the mental, the brain fog, I was depressed. I had, I had issues with depression, brain fog, digestive, skin, back pain, and I've had some skin cancers. I grew up on the coast, and the most fun thing was to get as brown as you could get. And I don't know, I mean, I got through many years with never having a skin cancer, and then all of a sudden I would have 2 or 3 a year that I would have to have surgically taken care of. They wouldn't be minor, And now I'm just thinking, I've made it now this whole time since I went on to the keto and the carnivore that I haven't had any skin cancer come back, thank goodness. So, and I'm very careful about wearing a hat and not getting too much UV, but I know the sun's good for you, but you don't want to get blinded by the light and killed, So anyway, so that it was basically for my health, for pain, to get rid of pain. And I always said I don't mind, crossing the rainbow bridge into eternity. I just don't want to suffer before I get there. I don't want to have pain. And so I realized that I had for a few years been covering up all my pain with a lot of Advil and ibuprofen and aspirin and a little bit of whiskey and things like that. Once in a while, some weed or something like that. But I hadn't been dealing with the cause of the pain, and I really didn't think I had anything that majorly, seriously wrong with me. But these were serious things: high blood pressure, diabetes, my brain being fogged up. Those are not minor things to take into my future. And I don't feel like I'm 70 years old, and I think I feel too bad for this age. This is too young to start feeling this way, and I don't think I have to put up with this. So I pushed back on my doctor, and I switched doctors and found a doctor that loved keto, but she closed her practice. I mean, I live in a kind of a small resort community, and people come and go here a lot. It's Arizona is really hot year round, but during the fall we get all these winters, they call them snowbirds, that come over to get out of the cold. And so it's hard to keep good people here year round. And so I thought, you know what? I need to quit running to the doctor and trying to get the doctor. Nobody's going to come save me. I'm going to have to save myself. So that's how I started Carnivore. That's how I found Carnivore. And I've been, I wrote some of this down because I knew you would ask how long. I went total carnivore in July of 23. So I've only been total carnivore for 6 months. But before that, I was ketovore, and a short time I was just vegan, doing that journey helped me clear my whole house out. Get rid of everything, because I'm not a good moderator. Someone brought a little off of the plane, a little thing of whiskey to me and said, for the holidays, let's sneak this in the movie and put it in the Diet Coke. And I don't even drink Diet Coke. So I'm like, okay. So I took it home, and I think one evening I just put it in water and I forgot to drink it all. But other than that, I used to always have, my wine rack full, and I used to always have some liquor, and I used to always have friends over, and let's make ourselves a martini. And so starting with doing the vegan and realizing that, the alcohol is not good. I even asked my doctor, well, on keto, I remember my husband, he loved beer. And so he switched to Michelob Ultra because it was only 2 carbs. So we would save all his carbs for the beer at night. So I'm like, can I just have alcohol? And she's like, no, that's not a good idea. That's not a good idea because, alcohol's a depressant, and it's not going to make you happy. And it didn't, like the next day I would just, oh, well, I can't wait till 4 o'clock so I can have another one of those martinis. And then pretty soon it was like, oh, maybe I could have one at lunch today. I get a girlfriend to go to lunch with me.
It's a slippery slope, right?
Oh my gosh. And I've never believed I was an alcoholic, because I've been around alcoholics, and my husband was an alcoholic, and he completely went abstinent for about 12 years before he died. And so I knew what that looked like, to be an alcoholic. He couldn't, but when he he was like me. He's not a good moderator at all. And when he quit drinking, he went cold turkey and he went total abstinence all on his own. And people go, oh, nobody can do that. Well, you can. You can do anything you set your mind to doing. And so, but because, you know, I didn't see myself as being addicted to alcohol, but I knew I was addicted to sugar and sweets and carbs. I could just sit at an Italian restaurant. There's an Italian restaurant nearby, and they have a pizza oven, and the guy makes this plain pizza, spreads this garlic butter on it, cuts it up, and hands it to you in bowls at happy hour. And I'm just like, I could just sit there and eat this hot, delicious pizza bread forever. And so I just realized that I have to admit, I'm a carb addict. Like, yeah, a carb addict. That's what and a sugar addict. And I have a terrible sweet tooth.
That pizza thing kind of reminds me, when you talk about that situation, it reminds me of myself. Like, I used to live in a little Italy section of Melbourne, Australia. And those are the kind of restaurants that you would see all the way down this street called Lygon Street. You know, you can go in and you get that kind of pizza and you have your beer or your wine with it. And I can just imagine it's one of those situations where, you know, again, it's a slippery slope. You go in for just a beer and a bit of pizza, and before you know it, you're in there for hours, right?
Yes. And the wine, it's like they get you, because this restaurant has happy hour starting at 4 till they close every day of the week, but you can only get it at the bar. Well, when you're sitting at the bar, guess what? You know, you're getting this free bread. Well, it's not free, nothing's free, but you're getting bread pushed over to you. Now you're drinking, I love Merlot, you're drinking Merlot like crazy, and all of a sudden you're smelling the lasagna and people are having meatballs, and I'm thinking, oh, I'm carnivore now, I can have those meatballs. Well, those meatballs are not carnivore. You know, they're just the marinara all over them, and I can't just say don't put the marinara on it because they're cooked in the marinara. And so I had to quit doing all of that, you know, and it did put a strain on a few of my relationships, but the people that mind are not your friends anyway. You know what I mean? And the people that are bothered by it, they're not good for you. It's not a good thing, because I would always support anybody and anything they would do to make their life less painful and better. And but it's hard convincing people that, yeah, just this one will make me not feel good. It'll set me backwards. I kind of got a backwards throw for Thanksgiving, and I thought, oh, I'm going to do okay. I'm just going to have only the turkey, and I'm only going to taste each thing. So, you know, a taste of this, a taste of that. Then they bring out the alcohol and a glass of alcohol, and then I come home and I was sick, very sick the next day, and in a lot of pain and suffering. I couldn't even get enough water down me to make it keep going away, and it just wasn't worth it. And I just had a birthday, and we went out to lunch, and my friends say, where do you want to go? I go, Fago de Chao. It's a Brazilian steakhouse, and they bring the food around, and they have a big salad bar, but it has all kinds of meats and cheeses on it. And I go there. Very expensive, but it was my birthday, and they asked me. So, like, you know, but they brought a free, oh my God, this most beautiful chocolate, like flourless cake, you know, with a candle and happy birthday on it, and they sing to you. And I'm sitting there, what do I do with this? So I tasted it. And then I had some wine, and then I had to have more wine on my birthday, and it set me back. It did not only just brain fog wise, but weight wise. Like, I weigh often, and I mean, I put on a couple of pounds, and it took me like 7 days to go back where I was. And that's what's frustrating, I think, but I know I'm not healed all the way. I know I'm not done with my healing because my neuropathy's gotten better. All of the other issues, I kind of listed them. They're not really in priority, but they're ones I've suffered with a long time, and that would be poor sleep, chronic sinus infections, chronic ear infection and ear pain, shingles, joint pain, weakness in my muscles. I couldn't squeeze my hands together anymore to open jars and things like that. The peripheral neuropathy, and I went through massive amounts of testing with the neurologist, and they couldn't tell me what I had. He tested me for MS, like 60 diseases. And he said, well, you do have some autoimmune issue, but it's none of these. I'm like, well, good. I'm glad. You know what I mean? But what do I do next? So he suggested that I come back in a few months and we follow up and see if I've gotten worse, and so that's going to be next month. And I've gotten better. I've gotten better overall, but the neuropathy's still there, but my feeling is coming back in my feet in a different way, completely different. So I know my nerves are healing, but nerves heal very slowly because the neuropathy is where the myelin has been kind of torn away, or the sugar, the diabetes does it. It destroys the nerve, the sheath of the nerve, just like with MS. It's the same thing, but I can feel it getting better, and I do take supplements for that are natural. I take a R-alpha lipoic that my neurologist told me to take, and he also gave me very strong medicine so I wouldn't be bolted out of bed at night with muscle cramps and my feet seizing up. I would have seizing up of my muscles, and since going strict keto, then carnivore, I've maybe had one or two incidents where I was having it every night before, and it was destroying my sleep patterns where I'd have to jump out of bed, and sometimes it would just bolt me out of bed. So that's gotten so much better, and I'm positive that will disappear eventually completely. Let's say brain fog, depression, digestive. Oh my gosh, I've always had some kind of gas issue or and my gums healed. My back pain I had to go see a spine doctor. I went for physical therapy. None of that was helping until the inflammation went down. Because I was told I had a bulging disc. All of these things seem to be what people get anyway. There are lots of people with bulging discs that don't have pain. And so I'm like, no, I'm not going to opt for, I didn't want shots put in my back. I didn't want more drugs. So those are the main health issues. Yeah.
Well, congratulations on all the improvements. I'm interested in a few things just to fill in some gaps. So you mentioned lion diet there. So are you still doing lion?
Yes.
Okay. So how long have you just been eating beef?
Since the end of November, after Thanksgiving, because I was realizing that even the turkey was hurting my stomach. The chicken, I can't tolerate chicken. It just didn't feel good. I would eat it, and I would get all those digestive issues again, and my stomach would cramp, and I felt like I lost my taste for it. But when it comes to beef, I never am disappointed. Never. It's just delicious to me. It's crazy. Like, my friends are making fun of me. Like, what do you want to get? And I go, well, could we go somewhere I can get a hamburger patty? It's like, because that's all I want. I don't want anything else. I'd rather not eat, because now I'm having an issue with coffee where it doesn't taste good to me anymore. And I was so into coffee. It was a morning ritual. And I heard you talk about wanting to get off the coffee. It's not the caffeine that I'm bothered by. It was the fact that psychologically, it would just feel so good to make a pot of coffee. And then I was using it to stall eating. And I don't think that was helpful to me. But now it doesn't even taste good. I made, like, I'll make it and I literally throw it away because, number one, I can't tolerate any sweetness, the artificial sweeteners. I've even, experimented again with putting a little honey in it with my heavy cream or my half and half. And I have lost my taste buds for sweet. The taste has left my mouth. So now even like the sparkling drinks that are essence that have like, LaCroix, we have that here. I don't know if you do in Japan, but they're essenced with flavors, and they'll have like lemon or lime or whatever. And even that tastes sweet to me. It has absolutely no sugar. It's just sparkling water. But even that, I'm backing off on. Like I can't tolerate the sparkle in it, so I do it half, just so it has a little flavor. And now I've been putting unflavored electrolytes in my water, and my water tastes delicious and sweet to me for some reason. I like the flavor in my mouth. So I feel like that the things that were keeping me, the psychological, physiological things are just flowing behind me, and that they're all part of my past that I don't want to hold on to. I don't want to bring it forward. And so the Lion diet just seems to work for me right now. I don't know that, I guess if it ever gets to the point where I don't like it anymore, then I'll just start adding back stuff. I have been putting eggs in because I don't think I was eating enough protein. And I thought, well, I need to eat enough protein because I need to keep my muscle. So I would add an egg once in a while. I'd even put an egg in my coffee, like make the egg latte, like put a whole egg and run it in the blender and drink it. But I realized that the egg gives me stomach issues too. And so I'm not going to worry so much about counting my macros. And I don't worry too much about the intermittent fasting because it's not like I need to prove to myself that I know how to fast, that I have discipline, because I've fasted for spiritual reasons. I've done intermittent fasting for health reasons. At this point, I know people go, oh, I hear people on YouTube, I do 1 meal a day. Well, 1 meal a day, I wake up at 4 and I want my meal at 6 a.m. And then I'm up till 9 and I'm ready to eat again. So I've been eating 2 to 3 meals a day. Some days, if I sleep in, like this morning, I've only had, like today, I only had 1 because I slept in late. It was raining. I slept in late. My girlfriend shows up. We go for a long walk. I didn't get time to eat breakfast before she came, and I forgot about it. And then I had to do some errands, and then I was hungry. And so I didn't even make fresh food. I had patties left over from last night in the refrigerator, a piece of steak, and I just ate that. So I think I found what works for me to feel good. And it's odd to say. Yeah.
The good thing about beef is, like you said, if I ever get bored, but the good thing about beef is, it's certainly in my experience, it seems like once you've eaten enough, you can get tired of it. But, when you're ready to eat again, it's the best thing you've ever thought about. And you really look forward to it, right?
Yes, I love the flavor. You know what I mean? It's like, this is not a disappointment. If I had stopped and bought a hot dog and thrown the bun away, or if I'd stopped even in McDonald's and gotten their beef patties, which would be okay, but I just love my fresh, 80/20 ground. I love having steaks. I will tell you that I have backed off on the ribeye, because I think Steak and Butter Girl said it, that my digestion wasn't going quite right. And she said, back off on the fat a little bit. You're eating, that she gained weight when she started, but there are people that were eating like a stick of butter a day and stuff like that. At my age, I don't think I need a stick of butter a day, and I don't think I need, though I love it, I don't need all that fat. And now I've got some thin sliced ribeye in the freezer, and I'm just not interested in having it right now at all. It's like too much fat. So I sort of switched. I go by what's on sale, and lately what's been on sale are top sirloin, much leaner and tender and juicy. And I found ways to cook it that is as good as the local, the Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. Just sear it nice and brown in a pan, and then I put it in my air fry toaster oven combination for 20 minutes at 300, and it comes out perfect. It's hot, juicy, tender. So I found a way. I was doing everything in an air fryer before, but it was so much work to clean up all that grease.
So for someone watching right now, they're probably thinking, well, I've tried every diet out there. Nothing's worked. I've tried to improve my health. Nothing works. I'm taking this cocktail of medications every day. And I'd like to try carnivore, but this just sounds crazy, eating nothing but beef and hamburger and steak all day. Can you kind of talk to that a little bit? How is it possible to just give up everything else and not feel like I have to have, bread, or I have to have pasta and things like that?
Well, that's exactly what I hear from all my friends, but they're in awe at how I look right now. I mean, I've lost 53 pounds. It's been slow, but the biggest part of it has come off since I started pure carnivore. The rest was, the first 23 pounds was with keto and messing around. I would go up, go down, then I would count calories. So the payoff, not just in the pain level is gone. I'm not depressed. I'm not sad. I'm not feeling desperate. Like, I was starting to believe that this is how my life's going to go. I'm going to end up with dementia. I took care of both my parents with Alzheimer's. And then, like I said, I had a spouse that died of cancer. And I watched the progression of health go down, down, down. And I've had so many family members that were diabetic, and autoimmune disorders, even blindness. And I'm like, when will I go blind? I was scared. It scared me. And so I would do anything to prevent that. And if it worked, and I found what works, like I got my A1C done in December, and it was at 5.2. And when I started, it was at 6.6. That's a lot, So I'm no longer, and I didn't take metformin. I resisted the drugs. But my friends will say to me, oh, I could never go without my whatever, my food. Every morning I have to have a banana on my Cheerios. And I'm like, well, I can't tell you how you could incorporate that into a carnivore diet. It's like, first of all, the Cheerios are horrible. Second of all, the banana is even worse than the Cheerios. And what are you putting on it? Almond milk? You're like tearing your body apart, So I don't know what to tell people, except that if you want something bad enough, you will sacrifice anything for it. I can remember wanting children so badly, I would do anything. And I ended up with a horrible pregnancy, and I barely made it to well, I didn't even make it full term. I had to have him early because I got gestational diabetes. And so then I wanted more children, and I adopted. So if you want something, you adapt. And once you see it, I think people will look and say, oh, it's a miracle that you did have a baby and you were fine. And there was a miracle that a baby came to you, adoption. I tried for years to adopt through agencies. And then one day someone just calls and says, do you want a baby? Somebody wants to give away their baby. And I'm like, yeah, I want it. So people will say those are miracles, but they're not. They were a steady progression of my intention to not give up on my dream. And my dream is to live my life healthy, live my life to the fullest until my last breath. And that's my dream. I mean, I've watched too many people suffer, and I hate seeing people suffer, and I hate suffering myself, and I don't want anybody else to observe me suffering, And so that's why I do it. And yet people will say, well, I have this and that, and sleep apnea. That's another story. So, and her friends, I have to get a machine now because I can't breathe. And like, oh my goodness, my inspiration is my highest consciousness of what makes sense. And I think there's like a political agenda too about our food. And I think that's why I'm so glad for people like you and all of the other YouTube people that contribute to this, to bring awareness, especially the doctors that are coming out and saying, hey, we've been lied to. And I think, yeah, I have been lied to. I worked for the #1 weight loss company in the world. I was even invited to a special leaders only meeting with Jean Neidish, the founder of Weight Watchers. This is in the 70s. And that woman, took her diet from the New York City hospital diet. And the reason it was so successful is she got people getting together and talking about weight loss. And now Weight Watchers has bought into Ozempic. So we've been lied to, you know what I mean? Because it doesn't work. It doesn't work. None of that stuff works. We've left our natural, and we have too many toxins and I don't even think it's only toxins in our food. I think it's toxins in our consciousness, to where people are judgmental. I can remember being a vegan, and I never judged people for being meat eating. I would have never carried a sign or worked for PETA. You know what I mean? It's like, please, we're all human here, and we're all struggling to get where we all want to go, and that is into a state of peace and harmony on this earth. And so I would say, if you think you can't do it, then you won't do it. But if you believe that you hear what's happening to other people, I say try it. I mean, when I watched all those people like Kelly Hogan, and I saw how cute she was, and, the steak and butter girl, and these are beautiful women, they're half my age or even less, but I'm like, hey, and then you hear about like an 80-year-old that's doing carnivore and still ranching and things like that. I'm like, there's no excuse for me to not try this. And if it doesn't work, well, I've got lots of experience with a million other diets I could go back on. I did get rid of all those books. I got rid of everything. I even got rid of my oxalate book. I mean, I'm like, you know what? The oxalate dumping is real, and you are going to suffer a little bit with it, but you'll live. You will live. You know, it's like, it won't kill you.
Yeah. Better to eventually get rid of them than keep pumping them inside, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna back off on oxalates. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, but I will tell you what, I really believe that getting rid of the artificial sweeteners, which I was pretty much substituting that for my coffee. I wanted to have, sweet coffee. But I believe that triggers such a cytokine storm in my nervous system, in my joints, and it hits me right in my head every time. And it's crazy. It's like, why? Why would it just go right to that place? But I've had specifically targeted areas of my body all along with, where did my shingle travel? It traveled up into my ear, and it hurt so bad. And it's like, this is all inflammation trying, and in your body trying to rid itself of attacking things that's attacking it. So I quit attacking my body, and I let my body determine at what rate it wants to explode. It wants to fight war, go to war. But it's been very gentle on me. It really has. There's been some things that people would make other people quit, but I never had extreme keto flu, Of course, keto flu to me would have been a welcome thing compared to the things I was suffering with. When I'm stumbling around and falling because I can't feel the bottom of my feet, when I'm being told by my doctor that, you probably are having strokes because your blood pressure is too high. I was a nervous wreck from that stuff. And compared to how I feel now, when I went to my doctor for my last blood work, because I am keeping track. I wouldn't keep doing it if everything hadn't been going down. My triglycerides down from 315 to 136. Amazing. Even my cholesterol has gone down. I hear people, the cholesterol goes up, but I don't care. I'm not going to pay attention to that right now. But, and my weight and my sugars. So I keep track of it. And when I went in, she goes, well, what are you doing? You're doing great. Have you set a goal? And I go, yeah, but I've gone below my goal. And I'm going to keep going because I think I may reclaim my perfect body, And she's like, well, what are you doing? And I said, I'm doing carnivore. And she said, don't forget to eat your green vegetables. And I'm like, I kind of smiled at her. And she goes, no judgment here. I'm just here to tell you what I'm supposed to tell you. So she just left me alone. And I'm like, because I think she knows that if she starts hounding on me, then I'll just go to another doctor. It's like, no, I don't need to eat green vegetables. You don't know what happened when I did green smoothies. I had like frozen shoulder from green smoothies. I had it felt like a torn rotator cuff within a few days. And I used to be a vegan. So what gives? I don't know. I just know that I found the cure for what I have built up from poor diet, from the standard American diet, the standard American way to lose weight, and the global crisis we're in with food right now, with people being, obesity, pretty bad. I'm not fat phobic, but I don't agree with people that say, well, I like this. I honestly don't know anybody that likes being obese. It doesn't feel good. And I was never gigantic. I'm 5'6", but when we have shows now where people, it used to be my 300 pound, my 200 pound life, then my 300 pound life, my 400 pound, 5, 6, 700. 1,000-pound people. I think back then they didn't believe your body could put on that much weight. So
And now it seems like a bottomless coffee at McDonald's now, right? It's just there's no end to it.
It's like, how far are we going to go into this oblivion of? I used to use this term in Weight Watchers when I would be. Oh, I probably shouldn't have said that word, huh? But when I would do lectures, I would say that I was digging my grave with my spoon. Truly, when you don't moderate, but see, I couldn't moderate. I managed. I got by. But look what I built up. Look what I ended up with, because I still took in the sugar. I took in the carbs, the wheat, the grains. I mean, when you're a vegan, you eat tons of grains, soy products, junk. I mean, my favorite thing was McDonald's French fries, vegan, not too smart.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would say give it a try.
Fiber, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I think
and the ketchup all over it. It's like, oh.
I think
but
very, very wise words. I'm really glad to hear you're doing so well now, Shannon.
Thank you.
I just wonder, do you have an Instagram or a YouTube or a Facebook if people want to reach out to you?
I yesterday, after I knew I was going to interview with you, I went onto my Facebook. I had not Facebook. I'm sorry, I don't have any social media. I kind of dropped that a few years ago because it was just a little bit stressful on me. So I actually have 3 YouTube channels, and one of them I had put up and I never loaded anything into it. And it's called Self-Healing Journey. And at the time I was wanting to talk about metaphysical healing, our spiritual journey, how it affects our health and our everything. But I never did. I was actually I wrote a book on grief because of going through the loss of a spouse, and that took me 13 months. I went through counseling, and then I was going to start vlogging and stuff like that, but I never did. I just felt like that wasn't the right timing right now and isn't what my purpose is. So I did go back I went back in there and I put like a little tagline at the bottom. I thought, well, maybe this would be a good place to start putting videos. Like if I could send you my link, and then I could put this interview on there, you know what I mean? And I could just put stuff up, and then so they can, if anybody has questions, they could go there, or they could email me, and I would be happy to talk to people. I'm not a very good evangelizer for what I'm doing, because I find that people don't want to talk about it. They want to know how I lost all the weight, but they don't want to hear the rest. They're like, oh, I could never do that.
Oh, all that other stuff is work. No, I don't want to hear any of that stuff.
Yeah. I'm like, well, they already know I already do all these practices that they think they can't do either. Like, I'm like, well, instead of going and getting this, why don't you meditate, and maybe the answer will come to you. You know what I mean? Oh, no. So I'm like, okay, so I just let people, pay attention. And I mean, I don't pay attention to what they say anyway, but they're curious, like, how'd you do that? And I will tell you, if you're considering carnivore for weight loss, there's no better way to lose weight. I actually have muscles. I flexed my arm and I'm growing muscles. You never do that when you're on a diet.
And
you don't grow muscles.
It just happens, right? It just happens.
Yeah, I'm 70 years old and I've got guns. I think it's funny because I've never, and my legs, like my calves and stuff, they just, my whole body has reshaped. It's starting to look like my body looked when I was 18, except my skin's a little sucky compared to that. But it's amazing that this protein does build muscle.
Mm. Yeah.
And that makes you look thinner.
It just shows how the regular diet is so deficient in the nutrients that we actually need, right?
Yes. So being on the carnivore, not that long, a total real carnivore. I mean, before it was keto, but my weight loss was so slow. I only lost, in 23 months, I lost 23 pounds on keto. Since July till now, I've lost 30 pounds on carnivore. That's huge. And it's a fast weight loss, really. But people want instant. They want a savior to come and do it for them.
Yeah. But I think your story is very inspirational, and I'm sure there's someone that's going to watch this and go, okay, I'm going to give it a try, because it really is well worth doing. I do hope so. Yeah.
And it's worth talking about. And I think it's been I've had no one to share this with, one-on-one. I do have a friend, she's doing keto, and her doctor just, she's doing okay on keto, but she's happy with the results and everything, and she knows what I'm doing. And now, and I think, well, I've had no one to but the best thing is to have a friend that totally accepts you. Acceptance is so important, that we just are compassionate and kind to each other and accepting and not looking around trying to control other people. Just get in your own lane and stay in your own lane. And, sometimes I think it's easier for me than it would be for, say, someone with a family or someone with a spouse that's not very cooperative, that say maybe, oh, honey, let's go out to dinner all the time or whatever. I'm pretty blessed that I live independently. I live alone, and I'm not dating. I made a commitment to not date until I'm feeling 100% wonderful, because you kind of attract what you are out there in the single world. And I'm like, I don't want to attract a guy that won't put in the work to take care of himself, So I'm like, I'd rather work on me. But once in a while, that the loneliness too is difficult. And I used to make excuses all the time, like they opened a new donut shop in my town, not very far from me, after I first moved here a couple of years ago. And I drove down there and drove through and got donuts. And then I embarrassingly told my girlfriend, I said, well, there's nothing sweet in my life, so I might as well eat donuts. But that's not a good idea. That did not feel like someone hugging me. So emotionally, I can understand, and I see these really strong people that their spouses aren't joining them, or they're not, I heard you saying about your wife, she's not doing what you're doing, but different culture, different thought pattern. But to just be allowing, be supportive, be happy, don't be jealous if someone's doing better than what you thought they should do. That's kind of a rough thing, So hopefully if someone is watching this, and I will tell you, I've never had such results with anything. And I consider myself a thinker, a deep thinker. I'm intelligent. I research things. I pay attention, but I do not hook myself on a falling star. If something's not working, I switch. And so if you're not where you want to be, it's time for a switch. quit doing what you were doing and expecting a better result. It isn't going to happen. Even in the carnivore, I've had to make switches, changes. And like just this struggle with the coffee is one of them. I realized I thought I needed it to stay awake, but I'm finding that I don't like the taste of black coffee, and I think that I'll be okay, without the caffeine. I did buy some caffeine pills, and I took them one day. I took one, and I bought some caffeinated sparkling water. It just has caffeine in it. And in fact, I drank that today because I was kind of rushing around. I thought, oh, you know what? And I did go get a cup of coffee with my girlfriend. It was terrible. It did not taste good, even with the cream in it. I'm like, my mouth has changed. Like, I only want beef. It's crazy for right now, But that's okay, because you think of babies, they can only have what they need to grow. They grow on milk, on mother's milk. And if not mother's milk, I had to give my kids goat milk because cow milk gave them such bad ear infections. But you think just do what feels intuitively. Your body tells you what it needs. It will signal you, but we don't want to listen. And then logically, this makes perfect sense to me. Even if other people say that's crazy, you have to have vegetables. No, it's not true. The food pyramid's a scam. The grains, that's a scam. We've been scammed.
Well said. So, Shannon, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your journey. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.